Name is Mark Holmes. This is kind of weird. It's almost like a client meeting because I think really except for about 3 folks in here, you're all clients. So I thought I'd just talk a little bit. I won't go into the background because that's stupid. One thing that people don't really appreciate about me is that I was an English major. I did teach English. Right? I was a professor. I did do that, yes. And that's why I like to write well. And one of the things you learn when you teach is that all of the stuff that's in your head that you think is really cool doesn't necessarily translate to people who aren't familiar with that. And so you learn very quickly that you're actually a translator. You're not really somebody who's going to impress somebody else by saying, hey, I got this huge body of knowledge. Isn't that cool? That doesn't work well. What's really impressive is if you can say, I'm going to take a difficult concept and make you understand it and make you appreciate it, and maybe it'll help you. And that's the first thing I learned when I started dealing with business people as a lawyer, that I was actually just their translator. Because they're all smart people, hard-driving folks, and trying to dazzle them with terminology and weird concepts doesn't help. Actually, it makes it worse. So what I do is I try to basically take whatever the issue is or whatever the concept is and translate it so that it makes sense in the business world, right, for a person who needs a solution. Because actually, that's what I do, right? I try to provide solutions in a very uncertain and even chaotic world. And my world, for the most part, is the business world. So I try to basically provide solutions to people who are dealing with chaotic and sometimes horrific situations in business. Best example that I do all the time, and some of my clients find it weird, is the person who's basically losing their crap, right? Because, I don't know, there's so many reasons why they do. But they're usually employees, and they're usually making life a living hell for both the business owner and the employees at the place. And the question is, what do I do with this person? Because, you see, I have to tell them, obviously, you need to get rid of that person, right? The question is, how do you get rid of the person without them coming back with large weaponry and malicious intent, right? That's the difficult part. And when I talk about dealing with a chaotic and uncertain world, that's a very chaotic and uncertain situation. Because even if you're very nice to the person and you get them out as pleasantly as possible, that doesn't mean they're not going to come back and mow down everybody in the office. And that's the world I live in. And I have to tell people that every day, right? Because no matter how nicely you get that person out, right, they still might come back and do serious damage to the people that work with you and to yourself. And that's where Don and I, because we've been doing this for a long time, understand that law is not a science, right? It's a practice, right? And a practice is very uncertain, with very unpredictable people. Why? Because people themselves are very unpredictable. You cannot tell what somebody's going to do. I can't even tell what a judge is going to do, right? I have a decent idea of what the judge might do, but I can't predict it. And so I have to tell people that again and again and again, right? So what I do is I try to provide as much predictability as I can to the client so that they don't run screaming out of the room, right? Because otherwise I wouldn't have any clients, right? That's really kind of what I do. Right? I say, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, right? I give them likelihood, I give them possibilities, right? But I don't tell them, yeah, this is definitely going to happen, because you never know what's going to happen. And the reason why I do that, and Don's familiar with this because he deals with insurance companies who sometimes are extremely unpredictable and are run by monsters, right? No, there's nothing more dangerous in this world, I'll tell you, than a legal arena, right, filled with a monster with a bunch of money, right? That is a very dangerous person because they have malicious intent and they have lots of financial resources with which to make their malicious intent a reality, or at least for them a reality. What they usually do is make a nightmare for everybody else. And you see, that's the world we live in now, right? Whenever people trot out these fine concepts of justice and all that sort of stuff, I try to tell people that the reality is a little bit different. Because the reality is, if you have a lot of money, you can get away with a lot of crap. It's sad but true. And I try to tell people that in advance. Because one of the things I tell people in a litigation right out of the gate is, if that person has a lot of money, you're going to have to talk about settling, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of money, and if they have more money, you might lose because they can out-lawyer you or out-litigate you. Right? I have one case that involves $12 million, and I have 5 lawyers on the other side opposing me. Right? So they're spending probably about $1,500 to $1,600 an hour fighting the same lawsuit that I am. And you see, that's because the people on the other side are not afraid to just burn money. So, where's the justice in that? Well, there is no justice, right? You just have to deal with it. And so the question is, given that situation, because it is situational sort of strategy, right? You have to ask yourself, how do you want to play this game? Because you can go hard and you can go all the way to trial, but the question is, they're going to go hard and they go all the way to trial. How do you think that's going to turn out? Well, the risks go way high, don't they? Because they have a lot more resources than you do, right? And then if they find something that they can use against you, they're going to. And that may turn the outcome of the case against you. And so I usually tell people, before we get too far down the line, maybe we should sit down at what we call a mediation, right? And Carla's seen my retainer agreement, right? That's the first thing we talk about, mediation, right? Because mediation is a great idea. Why is mediation a great idea? Well, it takes unequal parties, people with unequal resources and perhaps even an unequal chance of winning it at trial, and puts them at a table with a retired judge, and they try to get an agreement. And everybody goes, I don't want to agree with them. And they usually say, it's the principle of the thing, they're evil, blah, 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 right? And the response to that is, the worst agreement in the world is always better than the best judgment. Do you want me to explain that to you? Right? You can walk out thinking you have just signed a horrible settlement agreement, but at least that dispute is now done. Right? But if you go all the way to trial and you win and you get punitive damages and all this other wonderful stuff, right, that Don and I always have fantasy dreams about, right? Oh yes, $150 billion in punitive damages. Ooh, that's going to make a nice retirement, isn't it? Right? But you may never see that, right? I have a case right now where the client is intent on destroying the other side, and I keep telling the client, yes, you're probably going to win, but guess what? When you get the judgment, it's worthless because they have no money. They're going to be living under a bridge. You're not going to get a dime ever. They'll probably die, right? And they go, wow, why don't you think I can get some money? I said, I just told you they have no money. If you don't have any money, you can't get money. That's the way it works in the United States, right? But you see, some people don't care. They just want to have the win. And I keep telling people, the win is sometimes a Pyrrhic victory. You will end up regretting it more than you can know, right? Because you keep paying me, and you'll hate me. I always tell them, you're going to hate my guts, right? I'm going to win, and you're going to hate my guts, right? I have one client I won a judgment for. We got punitive damages. We went through bankruptcy court. We got the punitive damage award, right, approved by the bankruptcy court. It would not be discharged. Yeah, we're actually getting $600 a week from these people, right? They made, $600. They had to pay $600 a week. Well, the cost to collect it were about $500. So they only put like $100 towards the judgment every week, and the interest on this thing was like $48,000 a year, right? So they were never ever going to pay off this judgment. And at first the client was very happy, but after a year the client wouldn't talk to me anymore. Because the client was upset that essentially it wasn't ending, and it wasn't ending so that essentially they could bring some closure to the whole thing. It's still going on. It's miserable. It's toxic. It really does drag at you. And so when you look at whether or not you want to win something like this, a dispute, you have to ask yourself, is it really wise to win? Or is it better to settle? And I can tell you, after having done this 27 years, it's better to settle. I just had a client, we won summary judgment. It's very hard to win summary judgment. I won a summary judgment, and I defeated a $1.6 million claim against my client. He was ecstatic, right? Because I just waxed the other side's ass. They were just bad, right? They didn't pay attention. They were sloppy. They showed up. They were unprepared. The judge was angry at them. He just said, boom, you're going down, Buster, right? Got the judgment. Guess what? What'd they do? Appeal. Of course they appealed. That's what I told the client. I said, it was cool to win, right? Yes. And I said, but it's not ending, is it? No. So basically, I told them, I said, they're going to basically go to the Court of Appeals. They're going to see if there's some way they can't send it back down to the trial court. And even though the trial judge really hates this guy, they're going to try the case. And if they do and they win, they might get $1.6 million or more from you. So what do you say? Why don't we sit down and try to do a deal with these guys, right? And he goes, I don't want to get them back. Well, we went and did a mediation and we settled the case for $72,000, right? I'd call that a win. Right? Client's still not happy, but guess what? I don't care, right? Because I did the right thing by the client, right? And the client will see in about a year from now that this was the best thing, because you see, if we had done the appeal, right, we'd still be doing the appeal 2 years from now, right? And he would hate me, and we'd have spent more than $72,000 just winning the appeal. So now you have an idea of the arena that Don and I sit in and play every day. Right? Because we deal with weird stuff driven by emotion, lots of money, and people who are extremely unpredictable. Isn't it great? Wonderful. No, because it is great in one sense, in that every day when I go to work, it's not boring. Right? Every time I pick up the phone, I get a new person with a new situation, with new issues, new problems, right? And I get to say, wow, geez, can I do something to help you? And if I try, and it works out, then it's a pretty good thing. And I can tell you, although I told you some of the negative sides of what I do, the positive side is when you work with people like that, and they are good folks, and they do understand you, you end up with excellent friends. And many of them are in this room. And those are the folks that you like to go on a journey with. And basically, I've been on a journey for about the last 27 years with lots of folks. And hopefully, until I retire, I'll keep going on that journey. Because it's fun, and I feel needed, and I feel useful, and I feel like I do something decent. So that's kind of what I do, and I know Don does. And hopefully you guys will understand a little bit more when we're sitting at the conference table telling you what's going on with your case, because this is really what's going on. We're just doing the best we can to regulate a very uncertain and chaotic situation. Make sense? Yeah. Questions? Comments? Protests?
In my consulting career, I stumbled into a number of different situations where the client was being sued, or the thing you're talking about. And being sued, I found it interesting. I would say to them, so have you sat down with the suing party, or have you tried to settle this? Have you done anything about trying to settle this? Because you're not in the business of this lawsuit. You're in the business of X.
Absolutely.
And the business of this lawsuit is only distracting you from what you need to do to make a living, and you already are having problems. That's why I'm here. So, this is like trying to get a CA car around. And it's interesting how many people don't do that. They're just fought with the anger inside of them to either win or beat it off, and they don't think about settling.
Yeah. What I've learned is that I don't allow my clients to do that. They have to be engaged, and they have to understand that this is not a good thing to just let a litigation run.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's just amazing how people throw good money after bad.
Well, actually, that's my best pitch for doing, for instance, the contracts I do, because I tell my clients, you'll make a lot more money doing your business than you will off of any litigation. Because here's my quote on litigation: worst investment ever. And I've had some clients who would not listen to me and would not get the contract signed, and they have gone out of business because they've spent too much time fighting with their clients, right, and not making money with their clients. And you see, that's the difference. You want to make money focusing on your business, not on litigations and not on disputes and fights with your clients or vendors or anybody else, right? That's what contracts really do. They regulate your relationship so you don't have disputes, and if you do have disputes, you resolve them quickly so you can move on. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Thanks so much.
Very good.